James Covell, composer, husband, father, one of God's guys in Hollywood.
Great.
How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Good, good. You know, being a composer, there are darn few of those around. How did you decide that this was something you really wanted to do?
Well, let's see. I'll address that first part. Yes, there are not that many of us. In fact, I say, you know, if you want to be a composer on a nighttime television show, on a network television show, the odds are better that you would be a United States senator, because there's 100 senators, and there's only about 15 or 20 guys that are working on nighttime television shows.
It's amazing.
It's a small group. I grew up singing in the church choir from day one. So my first exposure to music was church choir in Southern Baptist Church in Texas. Now, I grew up in the Air Force, so I moved around to a lot of different places. I sang in church choir to start with, and then I took trumpet lessons when I was in 5th grade in Albuquerque. And I remember when the guy came in, he was trying to get kids to come into the band, and so he played the trumpet. When I thought, gee, that sounds just like a lot. That just sounds like Herb Alpert and the Lonely Bull. That's what I want to sound like that. So I played the trumpet in 5th grade, and then I taught myself guitar probably in junior high, because that's how you get girls. And I took piano lessons in high school, because that's how you get girls. Then there was nobody in my family that was in show business. So the first thing I did was I started writing songs in high school, and junior high, high school. And then I had gotten the bug. I went on a tour with a group called Continental Singers in the late 70s. And then I knew I wanted to be in the music business. So I was a music major first at San Diego State. And then I transferred to Baylor, because since I'd grown up a Baptist, you must return to Mecca. So I went to Baylor for a year, and I realized Waco is not the cultural center of the universe.
Yeah.
So I had a friend that was transferring to USC, and so I found that USC had all these classes like film scoring, jazz improvisation, and so I came to USC, and that's where I first started scoring films and doing things like that.
Boy, that sounds neat. I was a music major for a while, and I discovered that being a music major is probably one of the toughest curriculum you can try.
It changes from a hobby to a profession, and then they say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So I don't think I've worked a day in my life, but so I've always enjoyed it. But people say, what's been the success, or what's the reason for your success? And I say it's two things. First off, it's God's faithfulness. And second off, it's my ability to fool a lot of people for a long period of time.
Well, I was looking again, like I said, at your IMDb, and the variety of different music. There's suspense films on there. There's McGee and Me, of course.
A new attitude, that's the first place to start. A fine love can change your heart. A new attitude.
And there's, you just finished Tom and Jerry, is that?
Yes, I just did 50 episodes of Tom and Jerry for HBO Max. So, yeah, it's animation. I'm working on a series for PureFlix, which is kind of a thing called Destination Heaven. It's a half-hour drama / comedy sort of thing where God appears and talks to people. And some of that is like touching, some of it's funny. I just finished a jazz score earlier this year, or mid last year, called Sallywood, which is a film with Sally Kirkland. And it's all kind of a Woody Allen meets Sally Kirkland meets um, you know, Hollywood, sort of Sunset Boulevard.
What I'm also sensing is that they don't give you a lot of time to produce these things. It's almost like today is Tuesday, so I better start thinking about something funny.
Yeah. There's not a lot of time because, you know, music is usually at the end of the process, and they've run out of time and run out of money. So, and you have to save it because it's something not working. So, yeah, I have to write music quickly, but that really hasn't been an obstacle for me, really. I just back time things, and I think, okay, if I have to deliver the show, you know, on Friday, then I need to be sure that I'm recording by like Wednesday, so I can mix on Thursday, so I can deliver on Friday. So, and if I have like 10 minutes of music I write, I know I can write 2 minutes a day. So I got to get 2 minutes done each day. And then it's just like, that's a lot of it is math and just like building stuff. It's just like, you got to do these things in order to get to that benchmark.
Well, do you have a particular instrument that you compose on? I know that in the old days it used to be the piano and those kind of things.
No, I have a keyboard. I do pretty much everything on the keyboard. I play enough guitar still to get in trouble, but a lot of things I think about what they should sound like before I ever sit down at the keyboard. And so I have kind of an idea when they first bring the film in. Okay, this is what it's going to sound like, and these are the elements that I need to bring to it. So I do a lot of I do conceptualize things before I sit down and write note one.
The way I understand it happens, and believe me, you know this better than I do. They pretty much completed all the editing and all the rest of it. So what you're seeing is kind of the finished product without the emotion in it. And I see the music as that thing that kind of guides the emotion.
Music is the language with which we feel. So that's my job, to supply the emotion that the director wants to bring about to each scene and the movie as a whole. So I've got to dress their child and put their child in the kind of clothes that they like or they want. And I will give them various ideas about, okay, I think this scene would look best with this kind of sensibilities or this kind of music. And then a lot of it's a give and take, and it's back and forth. In general, when people bring projects in, all the editing is done. A lot of times they have a temp track in them. A temp track is music that an editor has placed in from other films or TV shows, just like kind of an idea of how it should feel. So a lot of times they have the temp track, and that can be a help or a hindrance.
That's interesting. I didn't realize they did that.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself at odds with any of those kind of things, where you kind of look at it and say, nah, that just doesn't fit? Or
well, not usually, but in general, I will listen to it once, then I try to not listen to it anymore. And then if the director's put it in, then I know what the director likes.
Yeah.
What the director wants. So if that's what he wants, I'm not gonna try to mess that up.
Yeah. Is there a lot of short segments in terms of music? Do you say write an overall composition and then pick pieces out of it to show at particular moments within the film?
Well, I usually try to write, depends on what the show is, but I usually try to write a thematic idea, and then I write one theme or two themes. And then if those themes work in 2 or 3 different places in the movie, then I know I'm on the right track. So we will sit down. I'll sit down with the director, and first we'll spot the film. We'll decide where music is going to go, how much music we want, what our budget is. And then I will go write the first couple of cues. Then I'll have the director come back over and listen to it. And we'll say, yeah, I'd like more of this, less of that kind of thing. And then I'll go and start write maybe the first third of the show. And then I'll have the director come back and look at it again. And then we just kind of go on the road that way.
Well, do you spend a lot of time developing relationships with the directors that generally use you, or do you find yourself suddenly meeting somebody you've never seen before and kind
A
of
lot of
having
it,
to figure out what they want?
yeah, a lot of it is relationships. A lot of it's relationships over the past that I've worked with, and so a lot of it are repeat offenders. So that's just kind of the nature of the business. Is that you usually work with people that you worked with before, but I'm always trying to work out with new, younger people too. So
What is your favorite kind of music? Can I ask?
music that pays cash.
And pays it on time, I would think.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, well, who's your favorite child? I love jazz. I love musical theater. I love concert music. Um, um, if you're going to be a film composer, you pretty much have to like all of it that you do. So there's, if I could do any one thing, I'd probably write musical theater all day. But they're not really paying a lot for musical theater composers in Los Angeles. You have to be in New York to do that.
Yeah.
That's what I like. People ask, so what's your favorite film score? I will usually say my favorite score is Ennio Morricone's The Mission. That's a great film score. And
That's an incredible film too.
Yeah, it's an amazing film.
When he goes over that waterfall on the cross, that's something else.
Yeah. So I love Ennio Morricone. I love Jerry Goldsmith. Jerry Goldsmith was a master at sounding different on every project that he did. And of course, John Williams, reinvented film scoring in the 80s and the 90s with just his melodic ideology and his opera-esque sort of scores. And so I love Thomas Newton Howard. I love James Horner. But my earliest influences are Vaughan Williams, Mahler, Shostakovich, those classic composers, Stravinsky.
Yeah, that's a nice list. There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that list.
yeah. Well, in the early days when they first started putting music on films, they would play the great masters. So like Ravel, I think Ravel's Pictures in an Exhibition, his orchestration of Mussorgsky's piece, every kind of possible film score scenario is in Pictures at an Exhibition. So
Really?
you take that score and you can score it. You can temp score it a complete film. I don't care what film it is.
I'll be darned.
Because it's got humor, it's got majesty, it's got suspense, it's got just everything in there.
Is there any music that you'd like to write, but you're just afraid to write it, or
No, there's not anything I'm afraid of. And Stravinsky said, I don't write music. I just take what God has given and I put it on paper. So, and that's Stravinsky. So I think, all right, I mean, ultimately, every creative gift is from God. And so ultimately, he has to take credit for all the good stuff. And then I think he has to take credit also for all the mediocre stuff because it's all from him. And so I don't think there's not anything I'm afraid of. In fact, the greater the challenge, the more enjoyable it is. So I think some people are afraid of certain things because they're just, it's kind of a trust Jesus moment for me.
Karen, I mentioned Karen, that's your lovely wife. She's just an aside. She's a firecracker. There's just no other way to put her.
Right. I'm the trophy husband.
She was saying that you're also writing a kind of a piece of your own. How's that going? And
that's an oratorio. It's based on the 7 last sayings of Jesus from the cross.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm putting that in the context of a lynching of African Americans. So it's a 90-minute piece, and it's a concert piece for the concert hall. So I started that a couple of years ago, and I'm continuing to plow through with that and trying to engage different people to be a part of it. So, but every creative project, it has a long lifespan usually. So it takes a long time to get those things up and going. I have several musicals that I've worked on that, they just take a long time. And so you just keep pressing forward and trying to do one thing a day, one thing at a time. And those passion projects, they don't they don't pay any money on the front side. So you got to do it when you've got time and you can afford it.
Do you do a lot of editing in your music? I know I do a lot of editing in my writing. Do you?
Yeah, there's always self-editing you have to do. So I'll write it, typically I'll start writing the cue in the morning, and I'll start it, and then I take a break and go downstairs and have an apple, and then I'll come back and look at the cue and think like, oh, let's do this differently. And then by lunchtime, I'm like halfway through the cue, then I'll come back later after lunch and look at it again. And so, it's you're especially when I'm working out certain themes. If I'm working on a theme for a TV show or a film, it usually takes a couple of days to really come up with what you like, or at least what I like.
Is there any one of your projects you look back on and you feel a real pride about it, or a real sense that God's really used you here?
Well, I enjoy them all. A lot of people still today listen to McGee and Me. I have the McGee and Me soundtrack on Spotify, and I just have thousands of people that keep listening to that because they're all millennials now, and they were always kind of like, there's like big moments in their young childhoods where they were watching McGee and Me, so that's had a long lifespan, because that's like 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
So
a long time.
I've liked that. I wrote a number of films for Billy Graham in the 90s. Also, there's a film called The Ride, which was with Michael Biehn, that I did with a great director, Michael Seibel. And I love The Ride. That's a very epic Western sort of thing. And then if you go to James Covell on Spotify, I have 15 records on Spotify. So you can hear they're all there. So some are thrillers, some are romance, some are. I just did a thing called The Farmer and the Bell. That's a very sweet, a hallmarky romantic comedy sort of thing. They're all these things are a mere shadow of what I think we're going to do in eternity. And so I'm absolutely convinced. Well, I know my best work is ahead, and I think once we're in eternity, in that next dimension that we are with God, we'll look back and say, point to things like, they'll say like, Beethoven's Ninth. That was he had some good ideas. I think it was a good start. Or we'll look back at the Sistine Chapel and say like, okay, yeah, it's not exactly paint by numbers, but there's some good ideas there, because then we're going to go way beyond that. So everything that we do.
Yeah, I mean, we're only using 10% of our brain right now, and you kind of wonder what it would be like with even 50%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You and Karen came to Hollywood, I don't know, what, about 30 years ago?
Yeah, when we were 5 years old. So we met. Karen and I met at USC in the late 70s. She was doing a show called Pippin. I showed up to be the music director for her show, and I saved her show. And she'll say, I gave him his first job. So that's where we met at USC. So we were platonic friends for about 6 years. And then we fell in love, and then we
So very cool.
we got married in 1984, and so we've lived at the same house, gone to the same church, and been in the same ultra codependent relationship that we are in for almost 39 years.
Well, you see Hollywood not only as a place where you work, but as a mission field.
Right.
Yeah. Would you like to talk about that for a few minutes?
I'd
sure love to hear it.
It's the world's most influential marketplace for sure, because everything that happens here influences everybody else on the planet. So, the arts are important. God's first act is in the beginning, God created. So in the beginning, God created. And so his nature is to create. And that's what we're doing here. We're creating music, we're creating film, we're creating musicals, fine art. And that's a reflection of being made in God's image, is to create. And so we love doing that, and we love encouraging people to do that and to do things that are, good, true, and beautiful. And beautiful doesn't mean happy. Beautiful can be tragic. The cross is a tragic thing, but there's a lot of great art around the cross. So that's why we're here. We're here to set the captives free, and that's what our call is to be faithful with what he's given to us, and then to preach the gospel at all times, if necessary, use words or music.
How's that evangelistic effort going? Do you
God is calling us to be faithful. He's not calling us to be successful. He's calling us to be faithful. And success has a lot of different, connotations to it, but he's calling us to be faithful. And so we're showing up, and showing up is 98% of it. And I think that's what every artist needs to do. They need to show up. And the job of the artist is to deepen the mystery. It's not to give answers, because people have to come to their own conclusions. And so it's our job to get people to ask questions. So we've taught a class in our house for 30-something years now, 32 years, I believe, called How to Talk About Jesus Without Freaking Out. And we're starting our next class on Monday here in 3 days from now. And
we should put that on Zoom. I'd love to. Love to take it.
But we have a book. And
I have the book.
Okay, and the book has a 6-week Bible. It has a 6-week study in the back of it, and we're starting that with we've got 18 people coming to our house on Monday for 6 weeks. So we really love doing that, just encouraging people, challenging people, and that's what we're here for. You
say your best days are ahead of you. I got to tell you, I'm near 80, and you're right. Your best days are ahead of you.
Yeah.
I've never worked so hard and have so much fun in all my life.
It's great.
Yeah. So it really opens up for you. Do you have any things you want to do that so far you've just not been able to?
No, not really. I mean, there's things I'm continuing to do, but I think a part of that idea is tied to a bucket list. You think there's a bucket list of things that I need to get done before I die. But Karen and I just finished reading a book by there's a book about heaven by Randy Alcorn, but this one is by John Eldridge called All Things New. And in All Things New, he talks about what we're, what's ahead of us. And the whole idea of a bucket list is, I think, that's a crummy idea for the best part, because you think I need to get all these things done before I die. But what you need to do is you need to be prepared for what's coming ahead, and not trying to, go out and collect all these shells at the beaches of America or whatever it is, and so you can just stand in front of God and say, God, look at my shell collection. So I think I'm looking forward to getting my oratorio up and running. And there's other things I want to write as time permits and time goes along. And I'm just going to keep doing that. I'd love to do an opera on Bonhoeffer. I think that's a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But there's probably 100 things I could probably sit down and start writing tomorrow. But I have this, I've got to get this series out in the next 3 weeks. Got my series out, and then I have a weekly gig also that I do with a guitar player of mine. We supply music for this production company that has all these shows on the Discovery Channel. So for Shark Week or for Street Outlaws, or there's 30 shows they have over there, and so we pile music over there every week also. So there's lots of things on my plate at the moment, and the projects I enjoy doing most with my two boys.
Snakes, snails, and puppy dog tails. That's what they say. Little boys are made of running fast. A little bit of mischief. These are the things that boys love to live with. They build a fort and tear it down. Save the day, lead the brigade. Saint and sinner, loser and winner. It's who they are. It's how they're made. Little boys are wild at heart. That's what they are from the start. Just don't try and tame them, 'cause someday then we'll blame them for not fighting for the lover's heart. They gotta rise up and do their part. Boys will be boys, the boys will be dads. Someday we'll be so glad they were weak or mild, 'cause little boys are wild, wild at heart.
Because both our boys are in the film business, and I love working for them and on the things they've done. So we did every summer we would do a family film, and so our kind of last project before the boys went to college or out of college was a film. It's on Amazon Prime now. It's called Death by Potato. So it's a murder mystery.
I was noticing that. Yeah, on your list.
Yeah. So, but that was directed and written by my youngest son, Cameron. So I love doing projects with them. It's really fun. My older son, Chris, does script evaluation and development. Chris is also working at a company now called Pinnacle, which provides content for PureFlix. So Chris works with writers and producers trying to make their scripts better, and that's a big job.
Yeah.
My younger son, Cameron, is now working for Disney in New York, and he's producing content for Hulu and Disney local kinds of projects. So if you go to CameronCovell.com, you can see he's got probably almost 100 million views on his various movies.
Yeah, I'd like to see the potato one. That sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's fun. So both of them are very busy, in the business here also. So, and then Karen's working on a feature film also. It's either a feature or an extended TV series. So we're all doing a lot of different things.
When is it decided that something comes out of development and actually takes on a production life?
Yeah,
how does that work?
When somebody gives you the money.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody's got 100 ideas, and they're trying to sell those 100 ideas to various production companies that then have deals with studios. And so once there's a very few number of decision makers that can green light projects. And so that group is very small. And so you have to get your project to a production company, and that production company then has to present it to the studio. And then somebody green lights it, and then you get money, and then you start to do it. So it's a long it's a long gestation process.
Yeah, I believe that. You say you enjoy jazz. Do you write jazz music? Do you have a group that does jazz that you can try things out on? And
I don't have a jazz group, but there's there's a thing out there called Christian. It'll be on the HPN website, the call sheet, probably next like later on this month.
Yeah.
About Christian composers that want to do works of art, and they have groups that go around and do those things. So there are things like that. I wrote 12 songs about fathers, and that's on fathersongs.com. That's on my website. If you go to jamescovell.com, you can go to the tab where it says Father Songs, and you'll get to fathersongs.net or fathersongs.com. And I got 12 songs about fathers. Forgiving your father, affirming your father, all those things about fatherhood. So I'd love to write another album of that. So again, every day is different. Every day is exciting.
The Christian community in Hollywood is fairly tight knit, is it not? I mean, you guys know one another and go to church with one another.
It's a very small world. You think it would all behave a lot better, probably.
Yeah.
So you have to be connected to other people if you want to keep working. And so that's very important. Community is what it's all about. Community changed the world. And the group that I point out was a group called the Inklings. The Inklings were C.S. Lewis, J.R. Tolkien, Hugo Dyson, Charles Williams, Dorothy Sayers. It was that group. And, on Tuesdays, they would get together at the Eagle and Child and smoke and drink. And then on Thursdays, they would get together in their rooms at Magdalen College, there at Oxford. And they would read each other's manuscripts, read each other's stories, poetry, and then they would criticize it, usually pretty harshly. And because they got together and because they were in community, they literally changed the face of the artistic world. Because had it not been for C.S. Lewis, Tolkien never would have finished The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So, because they're in community, and also because Tolkien was there in C.S. Lewis's life. When C.S. Lewis first came to Oxford, he was an agnostic at best, maybe an atheist, and it was Tolkien that led him to a personal relationship with Jesus.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that and so when Tolkien finishes the Lord of the Rings, that's really the first fantasy novel. And if we didn't have Lord of the Rings, George Lucas wrote Star Wars because it was a response to Lord of the Rings. We wouldn't have Game of Thrones. We wouldn't have the Marvel universe. There's so much that happened because a small group of nerdy believers were together and encouraging each other, that they changed the face of the planet. And that's what we need to do in community.
Do you have 2 or 3 guys or ladies and guys that you get together with
we have a pretty big community. We have a pretty big community. I have a group of musicians called Measure for Measure that I meet with quarterly, and that's all musicians, composers, writers, songwriters. And then Karen has a group for everybody. There's a tech group, there's an animation group, there's I think there's a dancer group. There's something, there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
I have on my website, I have a page for called Creative Community, and that's a talk by Tim Keller that he does about the Inklings and about how they changed the face of the world. Community is the way that it has to work. First off, you have to have a well thought out theology of how your faith integrates with your work. Second off, you have to realize that art is the best way to change, the world. Thirdly, you have to have a community. And fourth, you do it because it brings you joy, not because you want to become a rich and famous, whatever.
Yeah.
So those are the 4 things that are crucial in, I think, being an artist in Los Angeles or the world.
or the world.
Yeah.
With the internet now, it's very much the world. Do you find things? Well, I mean, this is another dumb question. Do you find things have changed a lot from 32 years ago when you started versus what you're doing now?
Well, everything changes hourly, and you're constantly reinventing yourself. So that's what I'm constantly doing. But that's progress. That's what happens. And so you got to keep up with it. And still, many things are still the same. Relationships are crucial. Relationships, trusting God is crucial. And seeing the big picture, that's as crucial today as it was, in Moses's time. So that hasn't changed. The backdrop has changed, but all of those critical elements of trusting God and doing what it is that you feel like you're called to do, that hasn't changed.
The tools probably have, but you're right. I mean, when they were chiseling on stone, they were doing exactly what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, well, music was when I first started in the 80s, music was better because it was bass, drums, guitar, and a keyboard, and it was all live players. Live players are just, there's no replacement for that. And I try to put as many live players as I can on my scores because I try not to do it just all keyboards. But sometimes the budget is only just me and the keyboard. Sometimes me and a guitar player. Sometimes it's me and the London Symphony. So I've been to London and I've done the London Symphony. But other times it's me and just editing, music that I've already done. Every day. Every day is different.
Do you take any? Do you have any meditation time during the day? Do you start out with the Bible, or do you start out in say an hour on your own? Or
I always start out in the morning reading scripture. I do take a time in the middle of the afternoon as well, then Karen and I are involved in a lot of creative things. We're just like. Right now, we're booked from every night from now until next Friday or Saturday. Then we'll have something Friday and Saturday. So we're booked like 5 nights out of the 7. We're out with somebody, or we have somebody over, or something like that.
That's very cool. I mean, that really is.
The outside of the universe, the outside of the expanding universe, is actually going faster. Did you know that at the explosion of the Big Bang, almost 14 billion years ago, there's the explosion, and so it's spreading out, and the outside the universe are actually going faster. They're not going slower, and so I sort of feel like Karen and I are like going faster now. We're not slowing down in any sense, and we're going to keep going as long as we can until we drop. So.
That's kind of my thought. I mean, I'm doing a prison ministry is what I'm kind of expending a lot of energy doing that right now. And I'd love to get involved in some Hollywood ministry. And when I was talking to Karen, I was telling her I kind of grew up in movie theaters. I came out of an alcoholic home, and that's where I saw it being myself, and I wasn't in danger there. So I have a real soft spot in my heart for Hollywood, but I'm having a hard time finding a movie I want to go see anymore. The point of the whole thing is that I don't have any downtime, and I don't want any.
Great.
You finish a conversation or you turn something off, and then you go do something else. It sounds like you're about the same way.
Yeah, there is no rest, no rest for the righteous.
No, and you don't want to rest.
I don't.
I mean, rest is when you can sit down and do something productive.
Right. Yeah. Now Karen and I just came back from 2 days in Palm Springs, so that was very nice. But we're reading a great book by Mark Batterson right now called Chasing a Lion on a Snowy Day. That's a great book. So if I am resting, we're usually reading or something like that, or sitting by the pool and reading or something like that. So we'd love to.
And what you're doing is feeding your creativity again. You're kind of opening up and letting some more fodder go in there,
Right.
so that you can burn something.
Right.
Yeah, and to me, that's the best life.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, I view my professional life, where I was a salesman and sold big computers and all that, as almost a waste of time. And thank God, he's given me some extra time on the end of this where I can do some things.
Yeah.
I really love it. I really do. So what are you going to do after you hang up with me?
I have a show. I have a half-hour show that I have to get into files to send to the engineer, that he has then to put into Pro Tools, so I can send it to the production. So I can send it to the post house tonight.
Really?
Yeah, and I got to get that done because we're going to dinner at 6:15.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go, and
right.
I'll tell you, I really appreciate your time, Jim. You've been just great, and give your lovely wife a hug for me, because she's, like I said, she's dynamite. She just explodes everywhere, and it's fun to watch her.
It's true.
Anyway, God bless you, and God
Thank you
bless
so much.
your work, and I hope we get a chance to have a cup of coffee one day. I really do. You're a neat guy.
I'd love to meet you in person. Definitely.
Well, God bless you, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Our Father in heaven above, we're longing for a lasting love. Our fathers here on earth have often failed. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Many left us so confused, and in this hour of need, I come to you. This is my prayer, to love my children always. My heart's desire is they will do the same. Lord, let me show them mercy. Help them not despair. Hold them in your hands. This is my prayer. Lord, help me each day to do my part, to cherish and to guard the hearts of these little ones. You've entrusted me. May I show them how to love and to endure. Search for truth, seek what is pure, and in this hour of need, I come to you. This is my prayer, to love my children always. My heart's desire is they will do the same. Lord, let me show them mercy. Help them not despair. Hold them in your hands. This is my prayer.